There we go, Bing. How are you? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah, good to see you, man.
Perfect. It's great to see you. How are you, Bing?
Doing really good. Got my early morning sunlight in.
Mm-hmm.
Nice breakfast
What'd
of
you have?
so egg and ground beef. But
Beautiful.
yeah. There's I think the biohacker community is missing something called steamed egg. It's like an Asian dish,
Mm.
very silky way of producing eggs, and it's very delicious. I'll send you the recipe. Maybe you'll try it. But yeah, how
S-
you doing?
I'm doing great. Steamed egg is just boiling an egg, or
So
how does that
you
work?
you you mix it with water, and then you beat it, and then it comes out as like very silky. It's almost like a pudding, but it's like a
Ah,
savory, eggy pudding, and it's
okay.
comfort food in Asian cultures. So Koreans have a version, Chinese have a version, but I've been
Mm.
really enjoying that. So I've been eating a ton of eggs these
Yeah, you're
past couple
getting
of days.
you're getting me hungry. Um,
Oh yeah, sorry, you're on the pass, dude. You're at 48 hours in almost.
I'm almost at 48, and yesterday I decided that I'm gonna add in 48. It's my
Oh
first
okay.
fast,
Oh
and
yeah. It's
I
rough.
heard my body tell me multiple times yesterday, and in
Mhm.
three dreams, that I should end in 48. So that's what
Mm.
I'm gonna do, and I'm gonna be doing this again on May. Let's see if I can go for 72.
Okay, awesome. Yeah.
Yes.
Listen to your body, push your
Mm-hmm.
body, but listen to it. Yeah.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Exactly. No, I'm doing great. I feel great.
Mhm.
I'm not hungry. I just
Mm.
it's this weird feeling. There are moments of this weird feeling and just all of a sudden with incredible focus, which is happening right now, thank God.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah,
Mm.
I'm drinking electrolytes, shilajit,
Mhm.
sunlight, breath
Mhm.
work,
Good. All the good stuff.
all the
Yes,
good stuff.
natural
Exactly.
nootropics. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I tried some breath work before this podcast. It was like 4 seconds in through the nose and mouth, 2 seconds
Mhm.
out, 50 times, 2x.
Mhm.
I'm fired.
Mhm.
I'm fired up.
Mm. Oh,
I'm
okay, great,
I'm
great.
ready.
4 seconds in, and then so it's rapid. Well, 4 seconds in, and then you blow out, and then
So 4
4 seconds in.
seconds in, I like to imagine like there's this energy coming into me. So
Mhm.
I do like I
Mhm.
move upwards and it's four
Mhm.
seconds in through the mouth and nose. That's the trick.
Oh, that's interesting. I've never heard of that.
Yes. And then a quick exhale through the mouth, which is like
Mm.
around a second or two. Um,
Mm.
that's a crazy good breath work.
Dude, that's cool, man. Yeah.
Mhm. Perfect. So to get started, I'd love for you to give us a little bit to share on, who are you? What do you
Mhm.
do?
Mhm.
What got you to where you are today?
Yeah, thank you, Alfonso. I appreciate you having me on your podcast. You've had such renowned visitors,
Mm,
guests such as Jack Cruz, so it is an honor. I'm Bing Huang. I live in the USA in Washington, and my journey with health began in uh, I was in college, at the very beginning of college, even a little bit before I started really getting into weightlifting.
mm,
And with that comes health. And with health, you you want to research everything about health. You want to eat healthy. You want to be able to move in the proper ways. So that really is the start of my health journey and maximizing health and such. And then later, I went to pharmacy school. So I have a doctorate of pharmacy.
mhm,
So at that point, I was really interested in nootropics. I was trying all these nootropics like piracetam and the racetams and
mm,
sublabutamine, which is a thiamine derivative, and all these different type of things. I was experimenting to see what's the best way to optimize my health, what's the best way to
mm,
optimize my brain, and with the
mhm,
pharmacy background, that helped me understand some of the mechanisms.
mhm,
Over time, I got um, more interested in natural health because although there are benefits to the typical Western uh, medicine paradigm of thinking, thinking in terms of molecular mechanisms and such, I was also drawn to the natural health path. And that means also traditional Chinese medicine, the ancient arts of acupuncture,
Mhm.
of cupping, of different herbs,
Mhm.
and of even just super basic things like light,
Mhm.
like breath work, like eating a Paleolithic appropriate diet, an evolutionary biology appropriate diet for humans. So I saw the flaws in traditional Western medicine, and I started researching more about alternative medicine, alternative
Mhm.
theories about what optimum health for human, how do we get there, and that really started off with I got quite involved first with the paleo movement. That was in my early college years, so that was
Mhm.
probably about 10 years ago. And then slowly, I learned a bunch of also manual therapies such as cupping and trigger point therapy and rehab exercises to keep your body healthy,
Mhm.
especially through sports injuries, which I accumulated quite a fair amount in my weightlifting career. So
Mhm.
and then I got more into Buddhism later on around 27 and philosophy and answering those big questions. What is consciousness? Why are we here? What happens after we die?
Mhm.
And that all ties in with my health journey too. It really all just ties in. And
Mhm.
so now what I'm doing is I actually had I started my YouTube career 7 years ago, but I only did one or two videos and I stopped. I got too busy with school. And I always really wanted to do social media, really wanted to put my work out there because I feel like there's such a need in the world right now for people to improve their health, get better health, and then use that health as a way for them to take control of their lives,
Mm.
to fulfill their dreams, to not just be stuck in their 9 to 5. If that's
Mhm.
not what your soul is yelling for, is craving, then we do not have to relegate ourselves
Mhm.
to the dreams of other people. We can choose our own
Mm.
dreams. And I feel like life can be so much more than how it's dictated to us currently. There is a plan that the government sets out for you, that your parents set out for you, of going to school, and then you go to college, you find a job, now you're in debt,
Mhm.
and now you find a career in a corporation. It's very set up already for you. Not
Mhm.
much of it is a life that you have written out. So one of the overarching themes and what I want to spread, the message I'm spreading, is that you can have the life of your dreams. And a big part of that starts with your health, because if you don't have good health, then you don't have the ability, the energy to change your life, because that's, it's a big fight against entropy. It's a big fight
Mm.
against the machinations of your daily life, because we are creatures of habit. So with that health, with that vitality, you can have the life of your dreams, but it requires that health and that vitality, and that includes the mindset portion too.
Mhm.
I'm doing coaching right now, health related coaching. I have two clients right now who are my close friends, and that seems to be helping them. They're the case example for my future work, and I'm
Mm.
also working on expanding my social media right now. I write on Twitter, as
Mhm.
this is how we connected, because
Mhm.
we have a very similar circle of people that we follow, that we talk amongst, and also I'm getting ready for more short form content,
That's
and so
beautiful.
that's my next step, because I think it's so that, as you and I know, good health is actually very, very simple.
Mhm.
Have you read that book by Matthew Walker, Why We Sleep,
Of
or have you
course.
heard of it?
Yes.
Right. So it's just a simple concept as that, and that's just a small piece of the puzzle. Just getting your sleep under control, sleeping at the same time every day, will do wonders.
Mhm.
Giving your body enough sleep opportunity. That will already do so much for people's lives. It's good health is actually quite simple. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
I love that. There's a lot to unpack, but I want to touch on that exactly, which is good health is extremely simple. We just
Hmm.
can't see it because um there's no questioning over the things we're programmed with, but
Hmm.
it's as simple as to reconnect to how you used to live. That's it. That's
Mm-mm-mm.
that's the secret, right?
Mm-mm-mm.
Reconnect how your ancestors used to live.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to connect that because you mentioned that you started to get inclined to natural medicine,
Mm-hmm.
and of course it's through realizing that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, real health is real simple.
Mm-hmm. Right, right. The mechanisms are complicated. You
Mm-hmm.
get into uh, you know, like Jack Kruse always talks about how it goes below the molecular, and then you get into quantum mechanics, all this type of
Mm-hmm.
stuff. But the way you apply it, which is to get in sync back with nature by being outside,
Mm-hmm.
by viewing natural sunlight, which is just a natural consequence of being outside,
Mm-hmm.
of earthing, which
Mm-hmm.
is a natural consequence of using natural fibers that connect with the earth. Like those, the mechanisms are deep and complex,
Mm-hmm.
but the actual application is quite simple.
Yeah. So talking about that, you mentioned in our call 2 days ago, 2 days ago or yesterday, I don't remember.
I believe it was, yeah, it was Wednesday. Yeah.
Okay. So
Hmm.
2 days ago, about your philosophy for health. You have four
Hmm.
pillars.
Right, right. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for bringing it up. So I've been thinking about natural health for quite a while, and I wanted to package it very tightly. Not only
Mm,
that, but Zaid on Twitter, he's always
mhm,
talking about 80/20. What are the
mhm,
20% of efforts you put in that produces 80% of the results?
mhm.
Because in my mind, health is all about priorities. If you don't have priorities, then you're going to be doing all sorts of stuff. You're going to be
Lost.
journaling, and then gratitude, and then saying your affirmations, and then you're going to be doing some yoga, and then doing this and doing that. But there's a million things you can do for your health, but what's really important is find out those priorities.
Mm,
So I framed the four pillars, which is each a subsection of health, and then
mhm,
underneath it is the most important or most impactful part of it. So I'll just start from the beginning. So for physical health, that's the first pillar of four. The f- for, I the so physical health, and then the most important aspect of physical health is sunlight and sleep.
mm,
And I use that uh, as referring to circadian rhythm specifically. So
mhm,
sunlight and sleep is referring to circadian rhythm, because sunlight is the yang, right, and then sleep is the yin, right. So then we have the yin and the yang, the polarity aspect of health too.
mhm,
So I made this because there's connections there. So the second pillar is going to be mind health. So in mind health, the most important is meditation and mindset. So again, there's the yin and the yang portion of it.
mm.
So the yang is mindset, because you're feeling it's there.
Okay.
It's what helps you create your reality. And then the yang portion is meditation. It's the destruction of such, because
Mm,
you have to get rid of the old junk until and then you're able to replace it with the good stuff, the right mindsets that's going to lead you to the right goals.
mhm.
I read a
Oh, I
recent
love
post
that.
about mindset, which is Jocko Willick's phrase "good."
Yes, I wanted to touch on that so bad.
Yeah, we can talk about it right after this. And then
Mhm,
so the third pillar is going to be your social health. Social health is really important. We're social creatures. We're happier when we're social. People who have friends live longer. They're happier. If they fall into a depression, if they lose a family member, they have that support. It's so
mhm,
so important. And the most important aspect of how you leverage and how you impact your social health is finding aligned and ascending friends. Aligned as in they align with your values,
mhm,
your deepest values. So if you
mhm,
value uh, if you value being grateful and being truthful, and then and growth mindset, then you should find people that align with those, or else you're gonna
mhm,
be led down a different path. If you
mhm,
find people that love going clubbing and getting drunk at the end of the week, then even though they're your only friends, they're going to pull you down, and they're going
absolutely.
to pull you down a bad road. Of course, there are times when you have to use your judgment, you have to use your wisdom. If it's once
Mm.
in a while, or perhaps it's a friend in need, you don't just abandon them just because they're not, just because,
Yeah,
oh man, dude, you smoked a cig, man, I'm not gonna be friends with you anymore.
yeah,
There's
yeah, yeah.
balance there, right? And then ascending, right? So they should be growing with you, that growth mindset.
Mm,
So
mm.
not only do the values match, but they're growing with you. They have that adaptability because life is all about a fight against entropy. And it's you'll see that spark in people's eyes when they're growing and they want to grow with you.
Of
And
course.
it's the same thing as there's two different mindsets. The first mindset is, there's only so many resources in the world. It's a dog eat dog world. I have to fight against everybody. I have to compete against everybody for resources. And then there's the grow the pie mentality. And the grow the pie mentality means we can work together. 1 + 1 = 3. And so you want to find the people that see 1 + 1 = 3. Let's synergize. Let's grow the pie, right? So that if if I apply that earlier in my life, I would be much further. But it's never too late to plant a tree.
Mm-hmm.
And so the fourth is going to be the fourth pillar is it's I call it purpose and meaning health. You can also refer to it as spiritual health.
Mm-hmm.
And the subsect of that that's most impactful is going to be vision and values. So we talked a little bit about values already.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you value the most? In the Seven Habits of Highly Effective People, Stephen Covey wrote about a funeral visualization, where at the end of your life, visualize you're at the end of your life. What do you want the people around you to say?
Mm.
Do you want the people that you love, your friends, to say that you are a workaholic, they never really got to see you, that your kids, they say, oh, I really wish I could see
Mm-hmm.
Pop more, Or do you want them to say, oh, he was always there. He came to every basketball game. Every time I had a problem, he was there for me. And when you visualize, you put the end in mind. You have the end in mind. By
Mm-hmm.
having the end in mind, then it clears up what path you need to go on in this current moment in order to reach that goal, because there's so many distractions. So then that's the values part. So you have to take time to find out your values, your deepest values to align yourself with, and that's going to be the the lighthouse that guides you to your destination.
Mm.
Uh, and then your vision is how you perceive your future self to be. So your highest future self, what does he look like?
Mm.
Is he strong? Is he smiling? Is he
Visualizing,
confident?
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Are people looking up to him? Is he confident? Or has he retreated into a degenerate state of numbing himself with drugs, pornography,
Mm-hmm.
isolating himself, putting on a VR headset in the corner. There's no one there around him, and he's just strapped in. And then there's an alternate reality playing, and he's just sitting there, slumped over, fat, unhealthy, completely no vitality.
Mm-hmm.
So then that's that vision part of it. So that's how I encapsulate it. Of course, there's other aspects of each health pillar. For example, with physical health, there's diet, exercise. Those are all very very important. But if you just have to
Without
do one
light.
thing, then
Mm-hmm.
you have to go with the sunlight, the sleep,
Mm-hmm.
right? You have to go out and see the light out in the morning. So that's how I conceptualize it, and that's what I use with my clients in order to get results. And I plan to write about it more.
You should. Yeah,
Thanks, man.
absolutely. So, I mean, this could be the start of your short form content. We can.
Mhm.
I usually get around like 5 or 6 clips from each podcast, but you can steal as many as you want.
Oh, thanks, Alfonso. Appreciate
Oh
it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So one of the things you mentioned there was circadian biology, right?
Hmm.
And I think there's something that you shared in a post about light, like you just said, being just 20% of the effort and 80% of the results, right?
Right, right, right.
Right. So circadian biology is so stupidly overlooked,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah,
Because
we're ahead
it's
of our times.
there.
Hmm.
It's just it's here.
Hmm.
So why is circadian biology? Why is light important?
So the general spiel that I would give to my clients that are unaware
Mm-hmm.
is that most fundamentally, if you actually from a philosophical perspective, life is about polarity. It's about, in the Bible, one of the first verses is let there be light. From
Mm,
darkness there is light, right? So there's light and there's darkness. And so light is the yang, dark is the yin. And life is all about the harmony of those polarities.
mm,
And and since we've even before humans, even when we were single cellular organisms, before the
Mhm.
evolution of multicellular, we have been under the polarity of light versus dark. So
Mhm.
it is so fundamental to our existence and to our evolution that it goes back to the very, very beginning.
Mhm.
And and for us to ignore that fact is for us to say that nature is wrong, and
Mm.
nature's never wrong.
Mm.
So that's the background, and then we also learn later more about the science, how we have photoreceptors, melanopsin all over our bodies, and different opsins all over our bodies. How far near infrared penetrates through our skin, 4 inches, is around how deep it penetrates from the top of my head. And we learn about how all of these different neurotransmitter systems in our body is impacted by light through
Mhm.
our eyes, including dopamine, serotonin, the fact that UV light increases the amount of endorphins in our body through
Right.
POMC.
Mhm.
So when you look at the different mechanisms, and then those are the minute details, but the macroscopic view is that we've always lived in accordance to the light cycles for the sun rising and the sun setting. So for us to disrupt that with the advent of artificial lighting
Mhm.
and us being chronically indoors. And then we look at how many diseases are popping up, the rise of
Mhm.
mental illness, how many people have trouble sleeping. And sleeping is your God given right.
Mhm.
And people have trouble sleeping, and people are using drugs in the pharmacy that disrupt their sleep architecture to get
Mhm.
sleep. But it's not the most restful sleep they could be getting. The answer is in light.
Mhm.
So I can't go as deep into the mechanisms as someone like Jack Cruz. Quite frankly, I think it would take me many more years to understand it. But just understanding it from an evolutionary biology standpoint, from a philosophical standpoint of polarity, and
Mhm.
understanding some of the mechanisms of why is it that we have so much dark pigment in our substantia
Mm.
nigra, which is responsible for dopaminergic neurons. When you just start to ask these questions, then all of the answers are revealed. And a property of Buddhism, of Buddhist philosophy, is to question, and
Mhm.
to question over and over again is it are my beliefs factual? Is my anger warranted? But in the same
Mhm.
way, you also question other things like why do we need sunscreen now when it's an invention of the
Mhm.
past less than 100 years? What did people do about what do people do without sunscreen before? Why is it that light is so vilified now? Why is sunlight so vilified now?
Mhm.
Um, so you question those basic assumptions, because through meditation you're supposed to question your own thoughts, and you're supposed
Mhm.
to question your own beliefs.
Right.
And I've always been a bit of a contrarian, but I've realized it's important to not just be a contrarian for its own purpose, just because
Mhm.
you want to be different, but be a contrarian because you're not afraid of going against the status quo
Mm.
that to reach the actual truth.
Right. That's an interesting point over there. Let me add that. So, give me a second. It's this thing about questioning that to me, it's been one of my top values and one of my top priorities for my day to day for the
Mhm.
past like 8 months.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, I mean, you just follow a certain rabbit hole and you realize that you have no other option that to question
Mhm.
absolutely everything,
Mhm. Mhm.
right?
Mhm. Yep.
And this point that you share about polarity, which is, I mean, it's not new for me that darkness and light exists, but viewing it with a philosophical standpoint for
Mhm.
circadian rhythm
Mhm.
is definitely a very helpful
Mm.
way to explain this concept, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I know you can't go super in depth to this topic. I know you do, but there is one point that fascinates me the most, which is
Mhm.
POMC,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
The
Yeah.
first
Mhm.
time I heard about this, um, I mean, it blew my mind, and I heard it through Jack, and
Mhm.
further understood it through Zaid.
Yeah.
So if there's something that you can, break down about POMC and what this is.
So to my understanding, so please fact check me, is when your skin uh, is illuminated by the sun, it activates POMC, and POMC is broken into other, I believe they're amino acids that creates more different effects. Basically, sunlight hits your skin, activates POMC, and then POMC leads to more downstream effects. Those downstream effects include the effect of endorphin. I believe endorphin is directly cleaved from POMC, or it's downstream somewhere. Also uh, leads to dopamine because of
Mm,
forget one of the amino acids, and then I also it leads to tanning. I forget which.
melanin.
Yeah, melanin. Yeah, melanin. So all of these downstream effects from this one, I believe it's a peptide. POMC is a peptide, right? So so yeah, it just goes to show that light is a drug, and sunlight is the best, most natural drug. And if they could package sunlight into a pill, I mean, it would be a multi-billion-dollar industry.
Oh,
So,
absolutely.
but they can't, that you can't package light into a pill. Um, yeah. So that's my basic knowledge of it.
Hmm. Yeah, that's why they package other things into a pill, because it's easier and it makes you stupid and more programmable to keep buying other things that are packaged in a pill.
Mm-hmm. I would, yeah, and I would actually say that it takes away agency from you.
Oh, absolutely.
Anything that you depend on takes away agency, and
Mm-hmm.
so the advertisements for such pills, they're advertised to be an easy, quick solution, so you don't have to think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas
Mm-hmm.
with sunlight, there's so much propaganda against sunlight. The sunscreen industry, and then you have the sunglasses, and then the dermatologist saying that some of them are saying that there's no amount of
That's
sunlight that is healthy. It's or no amount of UV that's healthy, or something like that. It's getting to the point of ridiculousness.
mm-hmm.
So right, so anything that takes away your agency, that's how I view those. Uh, like when I think about different modalities, one of the criteria I put them through is, does this take away agency from me, or does this give me back agency?
Mm.
So I know that you've been going back and forth between coffee, whether you should be drinking coffee, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm. I, I, so at the start of this, yes, at the start of this year, I told myself I won't drink coffee for an entire year.
Mm-hmm.
I won't use stimulants for an entire year.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then the fourth day I was craving it at 11 p.m. And then the 10th day I lost. Yeah, so I drink
Yeah.
coffee every day. Sometimes it's
Mm-hmm.
twice.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very conscious about my
Mm-hmm.
decision
Mm-hmm.
on how this will impact cortisol, how
Mm-hmm.
this will impact my circadian rhythm, if it's too close to bedtime. Like I'm conscious about that. Um, but I have to take accountability and say that I'm addicted.
Oh yeah, that's okay, man. It's one of the lesser vices for sure. Is you're a lot of people a lot of people take it, and I think it depends on your bio individuality. Everybody's
Hmm.
chemistry is a little bit different, and especially if you're a fast metabolizer of caffeine, in which 50% of the population, about 50% is, then
How do I
it's
figure that out? How do I know if I'm a fast metabolizer? I
you would
thought,
have to take a genetics test, but then there's
Okay.
that whole, then this private company has your genetics, and the downstream effects of that can be a little bit creepy. But
Mm.
I did it, and I'm a slow metabolizer, so I abstain. Though I take some paraxanthine, which is,
Mm.
Zaid talks about it. Paraxanthine being it's the next metabolite of caffeine, so it effectively is a shorter half life than taking
Mhm.
caffeine directly, while still giving you some of that benefit. But your question was how do you find out? I would ask, when you wake up, do you feel restful?
Yes.
Okay, then it's probably not that big of a deal.
Mhm.
There is an off chance that sometimes when people aren't very rested, and they're sort of used to a certain level of sleep deprivation,
Mm.
that because their judgment and their
Mhm.
cognitive abilities have been affected by lack of sleep, that it's hard for them to judge how sleep deprived they are. But
Yes.
I mean, you look good to me, you're coherent and all that type of stuff. It's worth an experiment in the future to see
Mm-hmm.
if you do improve. But if you're waking up refreshed, you're getting a
Mm-hmm.
solid 7 to 8 hours, 9 hours,
Mm-hmm.
then you're probably a fast metabolizer.
Okay. Perfect. That's good
That
to
may
know.
change as you get older though, because your liver changes. Yeah.
Yes, of course. So again, touching on circadian biology,
Hmm.
um, after knowing about this, what are tools, simple tools you can give me,
Hmm.
give the listeners,
Hmm.
um, to further hone in their circadian biology and connect
Hmm.
to that and Earth's rhythms?
Right. No, that's a really good point. That's something I work with on myself and my clients. So the
Mm-hmm.
most impactful for your circadian biology is in Matthew Walker's book. For him, it's sleeping up at the same time every day and waking up at about the same time every day. And in my opinion, ideally, this should adjust with the seasons, right? Because the
Mm-hmm.
sun will set earlier or later, so it will slowly move over
Mm-hmm.
time. So that for him, that's number one. Sleeping up at the same time every day and then waking up at the same time every day. For me, that's still something I'm working on,
That's
but it's roughly an hour and a half about the same time now, because what he says in the book is that it'll increase the quality of your sleep, right? And quality is really
mm-hmm.
important because perhaps because that then you don't have to spend as much time, right? You get a shorter duration time compared to a longer duration of time, but higher quality can make up for that fact, right? So first timing. The second thing is artificial light and night management. So I recommend using red light bulbs, the blue light blockers, the real
After
ones.
sunset, of course.
Right, right, right. And you can start, yeah, after sunset, or an hour, or at least, at very least, an hour before bed. And I
Mm-hmm.
would include green, blocking the green light spectrum too, along with the blue, because there's some evidence that that affects your circadian rhythm
Right.
too. So might as well just go all out. If you
Mm-hmm.
want to go super hardcore, get the ones where the edges are blocked off too. But I
Mm-hmm.
think that's unnecessary if you have the red light bulbs. In addition, with the red light bulbs, they should be reasonably low lux, so not super
Mm-hmm.
bright, because we do know that
So
even red
interesting.
light that's bright can also impact your circadian rhythm. Uh, Jack
Mm-hmm.
Cruz wrote a post about that in regards to how red light can affect cortisol if your health isn't good,
Mm-hmm.
and I think he measured health as being your redox stator. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
sure what was his parameter for health in that specific context was, but basically, if you're not very healthy, then your cortisol can be impacted by red light at night. So the healthier you are, the more buffer you get, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
The more stable you are, or resistant against these type of side effects. Um, so so we got timing, we got blue light blockers, and then we got the
Sunrise.
light bulbs. And then lastly, I think the most, like, those are the top three, and then
Mm-hmm.
the smaller additions would be, meal timing, not eating too late. Oh, actually, sorry. Also in the top five, morning sunlight, of course,
Mm-hmm.
sunbathing, of course, when you can, and then if you can't get the morning sunlight, at the very least, get the sunset, and
Mm-hmm.
then worry about, and then those are the top. And then you can think about sleep supplements. You can think about meal timing.
Mm-hmm.
Meal timing is actually a fairly big deal too.
Yes.
But those are a summary of the top ones that I think about.
No,
Yeah,
those are
what do you
perfect.
think? Am I missing anything important in your opinion?
No, absolutely not. And there's this point that you mentioned about high lux red bulbs. What I've
Yeah.
noticed is that candles are brighter than my bulbs.
Oh,
Um,
really? Okay. Hmm.
and I noticed this because when I wake up a little bit before sunrise.
Hmm.
So I don't want to look at any artificial light as well.
Hmm.
I turn on my red bulbs and then I turn on a candle, and the candle makes me like do this, you know?
Oh, really? Okay.
And
Hmm.
and the red bulb is like if nothing happened, right?
Mm,
And that's
mm,
and
mm,
that's
mm, mm.
and that's kind of my test to know if they're high lux or not.
Oh, interesting. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
I never thought about that compared to a candle because that is something that's more evolutionarily compatible. We had
Mm-hmm.
that much earlier in our evolution. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's a good point. Interesting. Yeah, maybe I'll test that out too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. It never occurred to me. I just noticed that that happens every morning. I'm like,
Hmm.
my candle's brighter than the bulb.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So another thing that you mentioned prior was this notion of going against the crowd,
Hmm.
right? Why do you think most folks are terrified of that?
It's a good point. I think the idea to follow the crowd, to do what you're told, to listen to authority is ingrained in us because it's a
Mm,
it's a necessary prerequisite
mm,
for a stable society. At least that's what the hypothesis is. At least, that makes sense, right? If you had
mhm,
perhaps there's a model for a society at large that can include more variety in thoughts, more variety in beliefs.
mm,
But for our stable society, we are taught to follow the crowd, and we're indoctrinated since we've been in school.
mhm,
Whether it's public school or private school, there's various levels of indoctrination. Jordan Peterson had a podcast about this, and I forget who the guest was, but basically, this guest, they worked in academia, and how they talk about how nowadays the students aren't taught to think critically;
mm,
they're taught
mhm. How?
to
Yeah.
obey.
Mhm,
They're taught to repeat the lines that they were taught and to stay in line. And that's quite unfortunate. It's an antithesis of who I am. So
mhm,
I I'm I find a lot of faults with that, and that's why I think it's so important that Elon Musk, when he bought it, his first priority was freedom of speech
mhm,
because freedom of speech is paramount to our free society, and it's also paramount to think critically and to find out better ways to live, find out the truth about the matter,
mhm,
find out how we can restructure society despite the fact that restructuring is a painful process. I also think that this also goes back to Jordan Peterson's
mhm,
philosophy of order and chaos, because order, we often think of order as good, but order
mm,
can also be oppressive.
mhm,
So when you're going against the grain and you have these beliefs, this proof that the current order is toxic in this matter or
mm,
is dysfunctional in that matter, then of course the dysfunctional order is going to press against you and eradicate you. And
mm,
that's why there needs to be a balance. It goes back to the yin and the yang. Everything needs to be in perfect harmonious balance.
mhm,
And that requires that when dysfunctional order occurs, when oppressive order occurs, that chaos finds a way to break in and then to restructure the whole thing. And then
mm,
through chaos, we find a more perfect order that's more
mm,
aligned with the highest values of whatever humans decide to choose. You could say we're ascending.
mhm,
Um, and right now, I feel like we're in a very oppressive, very dysfunctional
mhm,
society, and that we need the breakdown of the current centralized powers, the current centralized
mm,
authorities into a
mhm.
more decentralized system where the voice of a random mom in suburbia or on a farm is equally as valid as a politician's, and
Mhm,
that merit is determined by the people or the
mhm,
people of the internet, because now we're one global community on the internet.
mhm, mhm. Yeah, incredibly well said, by the way.
Oh, thank you. I went a little bit everywhere.
No, that's beautiful. And it's this point about you mentioned with the podcast Jordan Peterson,
Mhm,
um, that in schools are teaching us not how to think, but why, but what to think
mhm,
and how to obey.
mhm.
It was that moment of awareness for me that made me drop out of school.
Oh, wow. Tell me more about that.
Yeah. So, um, man, it was a long process, but for like a year, I was noticing that I did not belong in that environment.
Mhm,
I was made for more than average. And I
mhm,
started to realize that everything there is average. Every single teacher is the exact same person.
Mhm.
all of the kids, all of the students, they're the copy of another one.
Mhm.
They speak, think, smell, look, and think the same,
Mhm.
right? Um, I cannot deal with that. And it wasn't until I think it was 11th grade, like the start of 11th grade, we had a project about the LGBTQ. I'm not against that community, but I am against that agenda. If you're gonna
Mhm.
make me if you're gonna make me think a certain way about the community, I'm off. And
Mhm.
that was like the final light for the trigger,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Um, and it's in Mexico, right? I would never
Mhm.
expect that agenda to kind of push over here,
Mhm.
right? So that was it for me.
Gotcha, gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't want to be told what to think. You rebelled
Absolutely.
against that, and when you felt
Mm-hmm.
that, you were like, "I need to get out of here. This is not conducive to my growth."
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
super, a super stupid system. Um, I mean, talking about Jordan Peterson, there's this that you share on your Twitter, which is, and I quote, "How can you change the world if you can't keep your room clean?"
Mhm. Mhm.
Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Right. There's many layers to that. So I talked. That was my post where I got inspiration from a picture of a hoarder's room, hoarder's house
Mm-hmm.
being cleaned and
Mm-hmm.
then transforming. Right. And I felt like there there is a lot of depth to that. So I just
Mm-hmm.
started writing. Um, how can you change the world if you can't keep your room clean? And I would say, I wonder how many of those protesters that you see on the street, whether or not their lives are in order,
Yeah.
whether or not their rooms are clean, whether or not their minds are fully organized. And I'm not saying that their causes aren't worth fighting for, but I'm also
Mm,
saying that you would have a bigger impact if you did the things that were tangibly within your own control.
absolutely.
So it's a matter of priorities again. It feels good to go to a protest because you
Mm-hmm.
get that feeling of community, like you're actually doing something, exerting
Mm-hmm.
a true purpose.
Mm-hmm.
You're part of the crowd. You're caught up in this euphoria of now your life is filled with meaning and purpose.
And I'm
But
part of a movement. Mm-hmm.
I'm part of the moment. I have belonging. I'm not saying that you should never protest. I'm
Mm-hmm.
this my point is to think about it for yourself and answer that question for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there are a lot of people, me included. There's still areas of my life that can be organized
Absolutely.
and put in its proper order before I go on to do the things, the bigger dreams I have in mind.
We all do, yeah.
So, what do you have in your tangible control? And so, Stephen Covey talks about that as your circle of control. What is the locus of your control?
Mm.
At the very center, you could say it's your actions. You could say it's your environment, your house. You can clean up your room. That is something you can literally do. Whereas change. You cannot guarantee that someone will be voted for in office or this law
Mm-hmm.
will be passed. You cannot guarantee it. You can guarantee that you're going to put your clothes away. You can guarantee that
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
unless someone wrestles you down or something. That, but you can guarantee that. And cleaning your room has much more virtue than you think it does. It has
Mm-hmm.
more of an impact
It
because
sounds stupid, but it's not.
right, but it's not. So my original point is, what is the locus of your control? The dead center of the locus of your control is your consciousness, is your awareness.
Mm-hmm.
Every moment of every second of your day, there are thoughts coming in and out, in and out, in and out.
Mm-hmm.
And every moment you have a chance to let it go, to consider it, to attach to it,
Mm.
for it to let you emotionally affect you. Let's say you have a thought, oh man, this person, my mom, like yelled at me today, or my girlfriend is super pissed. What am I going to do, man? My life sucks. You can either continue on down that path, that logical path
Mm-hmm.
of, oh, this and this, and because my girlfriend yelled at me, therefore I'm going to have a shitty day, like life sucks, my life is horrible, why can't I just find someone that's nice to me? Or you have that thought, you are aware of it, you recognize it, you let it go. Perhaps you shift your awareness to your body, your
Mm-hmm.
breath. Perhaps you
Mm-hmm.
shift your awareness and just think about a couple of things you're grateful for about your girlfriend.
Mm. Mm.
It's about
Mm.
taking conscious control of every single thought, every single action. That is your locus of control. All your
Mhm.
actions spring from your thoughts. Your environment is a reflection of the content of your
Mhm.
thoughts.
Mhm.
And everything in your life is a reflection of the content of your mind,
Mm.
inevitably.
Mhm.
That's how I think about it. And it's also the contents of your life is also a reflection of, I'm a Buddhist, so I believe in reincarnation. So it's also a reflection of the past karma of your past lives, which also relates to what you were thinking, what you did
Mm.
in your past lives too. So everything is karma, everything is cause and effect, what you have in this current life. So going back to your locus of control, that's my 80/20
Mm. Mm.
is
Okay.
for taking control of your life is being consciously aware of your thoughts and taking control of them in the sense that you align them to your highest values, you catch the bad thoughts and you let
Mhm.
them go and you cultivate good thoughts.
Mhm.
And you destroy the bad thoughts if they're difficult, go into meditation. Go into meditation, focus on your breath because that's
Right.
when you're practicing letting go of thoughts. If you don't
Right.
practice how to let go of your thoughts, if you don't practice to not identify with your thoughts, then how are you going to do that on the fly when you're busy doing going about a certain task?
Mhm.
So then once you cultivate those good thoughts, your room, your house, wherever you live is going to be a reflection of those good thoughts and it's going to be a virtuous cycle. Now you see your room's clean, everything's in order, there's not very much visual clutter. If this goes back to the Maria Kondo organizing practice that she does, there's no visual clutter, everything's in its perfect order, it makes you happy, then it's a
Mhm.
virtuous cycle, then it's easier to be happy. It's easier to
Right.
cultivate those good thoughts. Same thing with good friends. If your friends do not make it easy for you to cultivate good thoughts, and there's something wrong.
Mhm. Absolutely.
And of course, you also need to be resilient to external forces, but
Mhm.
there's a balance there that one must
Mhm.
find. And that
Mhm.
doesn't mean that we shouldn't go and help people that are underprivileged, that have mental illness. We shouldn't avoid them like the plague. But at the same time, we should cultivate good friends and also be resistant to people that need our help, people that people that we should not avoid them like the plague. There's a balance there.
Mhm.
So that's why feng shui is more real than most people think.
Mhm.
And the easiest thing you can do to optimize your feng shui is to keep your house in order.
Mm. Yeah, this is such a like a beautiful concept to ponder on, right? And you might overlook it, might sound stupid right now until you give it a try
Hmm.
and everything changes,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? Yeah,
Hmm.
like you just said. Here's another, this is a little bit out of topic,
Hmm.
but this is another concept that you share on your Twitter and that I talk a lot about on this podcast, which is about porn,
Mm,
right?
mm, 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 mm.
It's a
Mhm,
huge problem.
mhm,
It's evil.
mhm,
And there's something specifically that you share that it's been here 0.1% of the time
mhm,
us Homo sapiens have been here.
mhm,
That's a huge problem. It's the same thing. Like that's the same concept with the light bulb.
mhm,
It's been
mhm,
here for such a small percentage of time compared to the millions of years that we've existed.
mhm, mhm.
Right.
Yes. Mhm.
So break that down for us. Why is this so disgusting?
Mm, 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 mhm. Yeah, 0.1% of the
Mm,
time that humans have been on the earth, porn has existed.
that's.
Um,
I mean that should make you stop immediately, right?
it's crazy. And it's having such wide-reaching effects. Someone commented on that on one of the posts I wrote about it. They said that, oh, this is a symptom, not the cause. Then it
Mm,
goes back to the chicken or the egg thing. And I think it's more of a cause than a symptom. But you
mm,
could say everything's interconnected, right? It's hard to
mm-hmm.
say. I call porn the cultural nuclear bomb in the minds of men and women.
Boom.
It is. It is. This is a upcoming post that I've read. I
Oh,
mean that I'm writing right now.
mm-hmm.
Um, so very unfortunately, when I was a youngster, when I was in middle school, maybe even before that, I was exposed to porn.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a part of my life, and it 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 has impacted me greatly. But I used to resent the people that exposed it to me so early on, and it happened. It was crazy, man. It's just your fellow classmates and stuff. It's
Mm-hmm.
normal for boys to experience that nowadays, but
Mm-hmm.
it is so detrimental to our health, to our vitality, to our morality, to all of
Mm-hmm.
these different aspects of health. And But in the same manner, I appreciate that I had to deal with
Mm-hmm.
this problem, because then it goes on and leads me to be able to teach others about the ill effects, teach others
Right.
about how to avoid it, how to overcome
Right.
it. And at the end of the day, all of your problems are blessings. Good, right? Jocko Willink will say, good. That's a good thing that you experienced that, because it gives
Yeah.
you something to overcome. If life doesn't have any obstacles, then what is the point of life? For you to just sit there and enjoy and to not grow, right? So it is a nuclear bomb that has gone off into the minds of men and women. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that affects both parties to a huge magnitude in different ways.
Mm.
If we just go back, if you just go back and just think about it philosophically, if you, a thought experiment, if you have a button that you can press that gives you hyper amounts of dopamine, of
Yeah.
pleasure, if you have a button and you can press it anytime you want, that gives you pleasure without any hard work or diligence, then what is that going to do to your motivation? What is that
Mm.
going to do
Mm.
for your long-term planning, for your prefrontal cortex to perform that executive function, so that you have a plan towards your goals? What is that going to do to your relationships that also require effort?
Right.
So there's two options: instant pleasure button, or two, like
Yeah.
normal hard work that leads to the
Actual
actual
work. Yeah.
reward, right? And then not only is it an unequal reward because it's hyperstimulatory, because people, these, men always joke, oh man, I have a million tabs open. That is a hyper stimulatory stimulus.
Mm.
You have an innumerable amount of digital women that you can see, and it tricks your brain into thinking that you have been hyper successful in the
Mm-hmm.
mating, uh in the in mating, and
Mm-hmm.
that's going to produce a surge of dopamine in your brain. And if reproduction is one of the primary motivations, natural motivations from your biology,
Mm-hmm.
then what happens when that's satiated to its max degree?
Mm.
Because let's be honest, a lot of men, they go out there and they work hard, they toil, and they sacrifice because they want a loving woman,
Mm-hmm.
they want a loving family, they want to build a safe and secure environment for them, and they want to synergistically and harmoniously live together.
Right.
But if the primary reward, which is sex, which is orgasm, is being replaced digitally, then there's no point to go through all that hard work that helps build and maintain society.
Mm-hmm.
All you have to do is just press this button.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why I think it's so insidious when the media makes porn out not to be a big issue.
Yeah.
It's just insane to me, because you think about that thought experiment. You don't even need to go into the all of the biology, all about how it degenerates your brain in terms of your prefrontal cortex,
Mm-hmm.
or how it changes your brain scans. You don't even need to go into it. Just think about it, whether it's good to press a button of pleasure over and over again, if it's at your free will, if you have complete free reign over it.
Yeah. Mm.
A- and there's is one thing that I would agree with in terms of the mainstream media. I think that we shouldn't be blaming the women. I think
Oh, absolutely.
a lot of these uh, manosphere podcasters, not a lot, maybe that's some of the manosphere podcasters, some of these men who rail against porn, who talk about the detriments, they also rail against these OnlyFans
Mm-hmm.
women, these sex workers.
Mm-hmm.
They call them the devil, and they say they're evil, and they're propagating degeneracy. And what I would say is that a lot of these women, some of these women, it wasn't their choice, or they
Right.
were coerced, or they were misled. And there have been many cases when these women, they decide that this is not my path. This cannot be my path going forward,
Right.
and I must stop. And then they still continue to
Mm-hmm.
receive the consequences. They get stalked. They have weird messages.
Yeah.
They can't get into healthy relationships. So, my
Mm-hmm.
opinion, they are the victims too. Although they should take full responsibility. Everybody should take full responsibility
Mm-hmm.
if us men or us as a society, perhaps some of the more conservative elements or whatever that are not uh, that are more fundamentalist, if they treat them as if they were the enemy, the devil,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
demonic forces, then we
Mm-hmm.
further push those women away that need our help. We
Mm,
further
mm,
push away our brothers and sisters
mm-hmm.
that need our help. And even if they say, I love doing it, this is like there's no problems with it, you know, uh, all this type of stuff, everybody will receive this everybody will get the consequences that come from your actions. You reap what you sow. In Buddhism, we call it karmic retribution. And that's not to say that we wish it upon them, but there are
Mm-hmm.
natural consequences to everything that we do in life. So
Mm-hmm.
even if they are arrogant about their work now and they haven't repented, or they haven't realized how how bad the
Mm-hmm.
actions they are doing right now is, in the future they will receive those natural punishments that are part of
Mm,
the laws of the universe, natural laws of the universe. So
yeah.
we should not be villainizing them, because that villainizing will lead to more shame. That
Mm,
shame unconsciously will be buried, and then they'll have to hide that shame. A lot of them, in the sex work industry, there's a lot of drug use, there's a
mm-hmm.
lot of mental illness in there. So we're only punishing people that are already being punished, and
Mm,
we should be like Jesus is, and
mm-hmm.
accept everybody, and be forgiving and be accepting and to be compassionate.
Mm,
So that's what I would agree with in terms of, that one of the messages that media is propagating, the mainstream media, is that, there's far right people, or there's
mhm.
conservative people that are
Yeah.
railing against sex
Mm-hmm.
workers, and
Mm-hmm.
I would agree that we shouldn't be railing against them. We shouldn't be denigrating them. Yeah. So that's my thoughts about it.
No, it's a great point. And you slightly mentioned there something that I really want to talk about,
Hmm.
which is Jocko Willink's good. I
Hmm.
live by that phrase.
Hmm.
Um, but you mentioned, like, you talk about the connection between Buddhism and the Bible with good as
Hmm.
well, which I
Hmm.
find super interesting, right?
Hmm.
Can you break
Hmm.
that down as well?
Hmm. So in this post, I linked four things. It was Jocko Willink's mantra,
Mm-hmm.
which is good. Any
Mm-hmm.
situation, you break your leg, good. Your wife
Mm-hmm.
left you, good. You
Mm-hmm.
lost your job, good. You got cancer, good. Those are very extreme, but still, the answer
You,
to
mm-hmm.
those hindrances, those obstacles, is good,
Mm-hmm.
and that connects with Buddhism, cognitive science, and also the Bible, the story of Joseph. So we can start with Buddhism. Buddhism, a big concept is to not think in terms of black and white, not
Mm,
think in terms of good or bad. It's actually a balance of the middle path, which is called Madhyamaka in Sanskrit. The middle path being, existence and emptiness. So
mm,
emptiness, you can think of it as, nothing's real, life is an illusion, life is a dream. Uh, you can think of it also as everything has a label. Like, this house is a house
mm-hmm.
because we call it a house, but the house
Mm-hmm.
is actually a composite. It's made of wood. It's made of concrete. It's made of bricks and plaster and drywall, and then it's made of atoms and et cetera, et cetera. And no, it's not
Mm-hmm.
really a house. It's just an aggregate of things. And where our bodies are just an aggregate of things. Our identity even is just an aggregate. Our identity is an evolutionarily produced psychic concept that we need in order to navigate
Mm,
our environment. Our
okay.
identities are not necessarily even real,
Mm-hmm.
but our identity was necessary so that we can navigate the environment, navigate society. If we didn't have an I, then how are we going to say, I need food or I need this? It's
Mm,
something that was produced in order
mm-hmm.
to be able to uh, reproduce and survive.
Mm-hmm.
So emptiness is touching on that aspect. It's touching on non-duality. Existence is the opposite. Existence, we still exist. There's still a community of people that you are involved with. You still have an identity. People
Mm-hmm.
exist. Suffering exists. Emptiness would say that suffering doesn't exist inherently. existence would say, yeah, suffering exists. You can see all these people that's crying.
Mm-hmm.
So then we apply that to good or bad. Is is your cancer really a bad thing? Is
Mm.
your wife leaving you really a bad thing? You have to think about that critically. And although it's quite painful to think about it, because to
Mm-hmm. Of
question your
course.
own beliefs, to question your own
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
emotions, and for them not to be validated instantly is painful. It
Mm-hmm.
is a painful situation.
Mm-hmm.
But because of that pain, because you endure that pain to question whether or not the bad things in your life are bad, because you made that big sacrifice, you turn the bad into good, and
Mm.
that's alchemy of the highest order. That is, it's beautiful,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because there are people that have gone through the worst things. Viktor Frankl, who
Yeah,
wrote the book Man's
absolutely.
Search for Meaning,
One
he
of
was
the
in a
best books in the world, by the way.
and he was sitting in a concentration camp, and he was in the one of the worst situations you could be in life.
Mm-hmm.
All your rights torn away from you,
Mm-hmm.
all your dignity torn away from you. And what does he do? He goes into his mind's eye and he visualizes the lessons that he's going to tell his students.
Mm.
He didn't sit
That's
there in
incredible.
sorrow
Yeah.
and give up. He he made the bad into a good. And that is one of the most virtuous, that's one of the most powerful things you can do.
Mm-hmm.
And in Buddhism, it's about challenging, is this really so black and white? Is this really
Mm-hmm.
bad?
Mm-hmm.
Or can you find the good in it? Because this is the
Mm-hmm.
same thing as a yin yang symbol.
Yes.
If you look at the yin yang symbol, the majority black part has a white dot, and the
Mm-hmm.
majority white part has a black
That's,
dot. And that's it's all bad, but then the good's coming as the
mm-hmm.
black, the bad is the black, and then the white dot is the good within the bad, then it
Right.
transforms into all good. And that's also that polarity there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's that Buddhist aspect. It touches on Mahdi and Maka. And in cognitive science, there's this part of your brain, the RAS system, RAS,
Mm-hmm.
and it is the filter for your reality. You
Mm-hmm.
have there's so much information, so much phenomenon all around you that your mind has to filter it in order for you to perceive it. They've done experiments about this. So your
Right.
beliefs, they color that filter. Your thoughts, they color that filter.
Right.
So you actually have to believe that there is good within the bad, that you can turn this
Mm.
bad thing into a good thing in
Mm-hmm.
order to for you to actually see it. If you don't believe it, then you're not going to be able to see it. So you have to
Mm.
actually be humble and say, I do not know all that is.
Mm-hmm. Fuck yeah.
And then you strive to see the good within the bad. You stop
Right.
victimizing yourself
Right.
and you say, there is good within the bad. I am going to find it somehow. In the Bible, it says, ask and you shall receive. So if you ask to see the good, you will find the good inevitably within everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Bible is the story of Joseph. He was sold into slavery by his brothers.
Right.
One of the worst things that can happen to a person. He's sold. Imagine your family selling you into slavery, dude. That's
Mm-hmm.
you. It's very easy to be hateful for life, to want vengeance.
Mm-hmm.
Yet he took the opportunity to become one of Pharaoh's greatest advisors, most trusted advisors, and it was
Mm-hmm.
through his interpretation of dreams.
Right.
And when the brothers came back to him during a famine to plead for help, Joseph forgave them.
Mm-hmm.
And it just goes to show that if Joseph forever perpetuated self-victimization, thinking that you could not find the good within the bad, then he would
Mm.
not rose to the ranks and he would have not forgiven his brothers. Instead, he would have perpetuated the cycle of hatred, the cycle of violence.
Right.
And in his high position, he could have easily had his brothers killed or worse, but he didn't. And that's a breaking the cycle of negativity. That's breaking the cycle of trauma. And
Mm.
that's why one of the most virtuous things you can do is to do the most virtuous thing that is so hard to do. Do the hard
Mm.
thing. Do the hard thing when it comes to your morals. If it's hard to forgive somebody, then the heavens will bless you even more if you do forgive them. If it's harder to love somebody, then the heavens will bless you
Mm.
for loving them in
Mm-hmm.
despite of such difficulty. This is a common theme that comes up in stories in the in Buddhism too, is people doing the hard thing. And what's
Mhm.
harder than turning all the bad things in your life into good?
Mhm.
It is so hard.
Right. 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 Of course. Yeah. This concept and the way you just broke it down is it's amazing. There's no other way than to live in this way, right? Because you don't
Hmm.
have control over everything,
Hmm.
right? I mean, that's another point of it. Yeah. So, Bing, for my last question, what brings you most joy in life?
My faith. My faith is what brings me
Mm,
my most joy in life. I am I'm a
beautiful.
Buddhist, specifically
Mhm.
Vajrayana, which is the same one as the Dalai Lama. In the Seattle metro area, we have a temple that I go to. We have chapters all over the world, temples all over the world, and it's been a core part of the reason why I am so happy, and why
Of
I've had
course.
all of those major questions answered. I used to think a lot about what happens after I die. What is the
Mm,
soul? What is consciousness? What's the purpose of life? And
mhm,
I've found all of those
mhm,
within inside my faith.
mm,
And I believe that everybody can find that within whatever faith is most suitable for them, whether it's Christianity, Islam,
right.
Sikhism, or Hinduism, or the various other religions in the world. I feel like everybody can find what they're looking for in one of those faiths. And there's different ones that are most suitable for different people. And we're going through a period right now of atheism. So we see
Mm,
all
mhm,
of these trends turning away from nature, uh,
right.
the lack of religion in our current generation, um, and the replacement of human connection with screen time, with
Right.
artificial relationships. All of these
Right.
different trends, I see them, and it doesn't seem like the average person is happier than the average person was 80 years ago.
Mhm,
Um,
mhm,
Even though we have all of these, we're in a very abundant world comparatively in the past.
mhm.
So my faith has brought me the most joy. Um,
Faith.
yeah, but can I ask you, are you religious? And if you're not, no worries. You're more
Well,
spiritual.
I'm more spiritual. Yes.
Mm,
Mhm,
mm, mm, mm. And yeah, I think that as you view the wonders of the world, you see of its intricacies and how it plays down to the most minute of levels, the microcosmic and all the way to the macrocosmic. You see how wondrous the universe is.
mhm. Absolutely.
And when science hasn't answered basic questions, I think a lot of people are disregard religion as pseudoscience. However,
Mm,
I would say that life is so mysterious and we know so little about it
right.
to keep an open mind, but critical mind. Keep your logic, keep your skepticism, all of that. That's good, but also keep it open because life is so much more mysterious than we all know. It goes so
Mhm,
deep. There's so much more to life than we know.
mhm. Absolutely. Bing. That was that was fucking incredible.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you
Everything,
having me on.
not just that part, everything was. Yes. I'm very happy we got to do this. Um,
Me too.
very grateful for your words, for your time, and, yeah, as soon as I have my space IRL, hopefully soon or whenever it has to be, you're I'd love to have as a I'd love to have you as around too.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Alfonso. You are you're so young and yet you have so much going for you. You have a
Mm,
really good head on your shoulders, rebelling against the
appreciate
system
it, bro.
and
Oh,
opting out at
absolutely.
such an early age. That you're much braver than I in that
Mm.
regard. So yeah, you're going places, Alfonso. You're
Thank you,
going
Bing.
places, and I'm here to see it, man. I
I
appreciate
appreciate it.
you having me on.
Thank you. Always, bro.
Thank
Give me a
you, thank
second.
you.